Hey, good afternoon. Pleasure to be the last speaker of the day here, standing between everyone and a cold beverage, including myself. So anyway, maybe it's the best for last. Let's go with that. So I'm glad to be here today. Joel Honeyman, I head up innovation at Bobcat, been with the company 27 years, and been working on this technology for quite some time. I'm excited about it, so let's get started. Let's talk about new technology. We're going to talk a lot about myths a little bit today, and then maybe how we can dispel some of those myths and what our customers are saying about this new tech we're working on. So technology influencers. Of course, our industry, like any industry, is influenced by outside technologies. You recognize these brands up here, but some of us have positive affiliations with some of these brands, and maybe sometimes we have negative affiliations. So, and that's not a criticism, it's just new technologies, are, some people like them, some people don't. And so we have to keep that in mind because our customers, contractors, people that are out here, they have a vision for us as manufacturers to being able to use these technologies and being able to apply them in their businesses. So if you take a step forward, if you look at the construction industry, and what are the big technologies, this is no surprise, we've been talking here today, and that's really autonomy, connectivity, and electrification. Those are the big three. Those are the three that we're working on. I'm going to spend a lot of time today talking about electrification and autonomy in particular because those are really, really important, but they're also really cutting edge. And we see these other industries and other influencers, we see how they're going to shape and impact our industry. We talk about autonomy. I'm going to talk a little bit about how it's a stepwise progression. We heard that today from a couple of the other speakers that, we got to take a practical approach to this. And then electrification. I think when we think of electrification, we think take the engine out, put a battery in. That's one part of it. It's electric components. It's other things that can make our vehicles more powerful, can make them do different things. Okay, but technology faces a practical challenge. Let's get into the myth side of this. We have to make sure the solution delivers value to that everyday contractor, the renter, the builder, the farmer, whoever it is. And we heard that loud and clear. We hear that from our customers. And so it has to show value. We need to show value. And so this gets validated even further. We're getting to the myths here. We face an uphill challenge. So you may not be able to read that in the back of the room, but what we did was we went to our message board. We'd put out some promotional materials about new electric vehicles, and imagine this. We got some negative feedback. Shocking news. Well, we got a lot of negative feedback. Well, it's not just us, it's other manufacturers too. And I just love some of these quotes, like one of them in here, 6 days for a 45-minute run, 6 days to charge for a 45-minute run time. How is it going to run when it's 50 degrees below Celsius? I'm like, okay, where are you working, with these vehicles? And, and it's just, again, the derogatory comments. But this is the challenge, right? This is the challenge because of the perception, right? People have a perception, as I mentioned. They have a perception of new technologies. Again, it's not wrong, but they haven't experienced them. And so, again, this is where I talk to my teams and we talk about doing customer VOC. If I did customer VOC on electrifying one of our products, this is what we would get generally. And the teams would say, we should stop working on this. There's no business here. But this is where we got to take this a step further and take a look at how we might take a look at this in the future. So here's what we did at Bobcat. To validate this further, we brought some random contractors into one of our facilities. We sat them down and we started just asking them questions about new technology, what it meant to them. And in particular, this set of customers, we asked them about electrified product, electrifying one of our pieces of equipment. Let's hear what they have to say about this.
Well, I grew up with equipment that had 70, 80 horsepower and more. I questioned whether or not the electronic machines could deliver that much power.
If the machine doesn't run 8 hours per day, I don't want it.
I've been running diesel for a long, long time. I've driven nothing but diesel, so knowing batteries, I don't think it's going to work. I really don't.
I don't think a battery-powered machine will perform as well as a diesel machine just because diesel's been around for so long and it's just been made better and better and better over the years.
Electric really doesn't make any sense, and I'll probably stick with my diesel.
Wow, well, I guess we're done. There's no point in building any of this equipment because we saw the blogs. These guys validated it. Again, why would anyone want to develop one of these machines? They already have their own perceptions about what it is. Again, not right or wrong, but this is the problem with new technology. You can't survey yourself. You can't survey your way into finding out what customers want. They have to experience it, okay? So now let's take it a next step here. But when we talk about those comments, what is everyone thinking about? Those customers are thinking about trade-offs, right? They're thinking about trading off. I have to trade off performance. I got to trade off other things if it's battery powered, or in this case, we say, if you say it's sustainable. The reality is we as manufacturers to the contractors, we have to deliver what? Something that's more productive, more powerful, and it fulfills the sustainability goals or whatever those other goals are. It can't trade it off. We agree with that. Because if it did, those customers' comments are probably very accurate and correct. So we have to do both. That's the challenge in this, but it's also the opportunity. We look at this new technology and what we're able to do in the platform. So now let's take this the next step. The T7X. This is the world's first all-electric compact track loader. We introduced this about a year ago in a limited launch. We're putting units out in the field right now as we speak. And so this has really been a real key vehicle for us. Some of you may have seen some of the press and the other things we're doing on this. So what we did was, with that same set of customers, is we took a disguised machine. We said, we got this old machine in one of our shops. Yeah, it might be electrified, but you just try it out, and then let us see what you think. So now let's see what those same set of customers think while and after they're driving this vehicle.
See how well I can pick up this dirt that I dumped. Wow. I felt like it was sufficiently powered with what I was doing. This thing is crazy.
Without any power, this thing is no problem doing anything.
This thing will just throw the dirt like it's not even in the bucket.
It's not a power thing. You know where else? Way more power than diesel, I think.
Honestly, I'd have to probably say, which may seem kind of crazy, is I think that electric actually pushes a lot harder than the diesel. There's a lot of power here, boys.
Well, they drove the vehicle, didn't they? And look what happened, right? Their perceptions changed in 10 minutes. They walked in our building being a bunch of skeptics. Now they walked out and they're believers. And there isn't a single person that we interviewed there, nor of the 300 plus customers that have driven that product, not a single one of them have said they would go back to diesel hydraulic for power and performance. Not one. What they didn't talk about, and I could show lots of videos, they didn't talk about how quiet it is, how comfortable it is, the software features, all those other things. No, they have concerns about charge time, and we're going to get to that, and some of the other things. But for the value of what they have, they talked about power and performance. They didn't talk about sustainability and those other things. They're important, but that's a benefit that comes along with. And so that's the difference in here, is that we have to do both. You got to bring these value propositions along with. So let's talk a little bit about a couple of myths in here. First, let me walk you through that machine because it might help you decide, and think about a little bit more about what it is and part of the value proposition. That picture on your left is our current T76. This is our current diesel hydraulic version. We lifted up the cab, and if you take a picture under the cab, this is what you got. That's tube lines, hoses, pumps, wiring harnesses, all that kind of thing. What's underneath that T76, you say? Well, there's not a lot there. That is the same vehicle, the electrified version, the T7X, with the cab up in the air, and all you basically see is the battery in an empty space. So again, we have a battery in there instead of a diesel engine. But on this platform, we removed all hydraulics. So there's no hydraulics, and we replaced that with electric ball screw actuators and electric drive motors. We have 40% fewer parts in that vehicle. And then from a fluid standpoint, we only have 1.5 gallons of eco-friendly coolant compared to 57 gallons of diesel fuel and oil. There's no engine vibration or whine. Every operator comments on it. They get out of that vehicle. We had a guy in California, he'd been running a skid steer for 25 years, and he said, you know what? I was going to retire in the next couple of years. You give me this, I'll work another 10 because of the quiet and the comfort, no noise. And then, of course, if you eliminate all those other things, the leak points and the engine, well, guess what? You eliminate 65% of the failures. Now, there's new failures that could come along the way. Obviously, it's different components. But this is what you can also provide. So now that we've actually gotten past the customer's rejections and we showed them there's value in this vehicle, now you can have a little bit better business conversation like cost of ownership. So that vehicle there, the diesel hydraulic version, it's about $9,000 a year when you think about fuel fluids and oil changes, compared to about $700 on the electric version. So it's less than a tenth the operating cost of this electric version compared to its diesel hydraulic version. So again, you're allowed, once you get past those objections, that you can talk about these things. Okay, so let's talk about the real elephant in the room. Let's talk about electric runtime, because this is the big objection. They all had it. You heard it in that one customer's comment. I got to be able to run this thing 8 hours. Doesn't run 8 hours. How long does that battery last? All right, so let's dive into this. We heard a little bit of this today. But there's an important point I want you all to learn. You've probably forgot everything you all learned in here today, but remember this. There's no idle on an electric machine. See, this is where things are really different, and you got to talk to contractors and customers about this, that machine only consumes power when you're activating the joysticks. So as we heard from our friends at Caterpillar, 50% is at idle. Our data says it's 30% is at idle on compact equipment in North America, but there is no idle, and so you're not consuming energy. And so what customers are finding out is that, wow, in a work day, I'm actually only using the machine, say, like 2 hours, right? Of the 3 hours that we see on the hour meter in our telematics, actually only 2 of that's of work time. So our T7X has a 5-hour complete battery, so you can run 5 total hours. That's not clock hours, that's work time hours. So if you think about 2 hours, you could run 2.5 days. The skid steer version will have an 8-hour battery. You could run 4 days in a 2-hour workday in that scenario as well. Now, it's not for everyone, right? My disclaimer on all this technology is hey, there's customers and applications that run all day. Gotcha. Maybe not for you right away. However, there's lots of other people on the other side here that this solution could really work for. So it's a cool product. If you get the chance to drive one, I highly encourage you to do it. I encourage your operators, whoever you're talking to, because again, this new technology needs to be experienced. Okay, that's electrification. Talked about that. Let's talk about autonomy now. Okay, so autonomy is a scary buzzword. I don't like the word autonomous vehicle, just in general. I think it conjures up all kinds of images like this skeleton guy from the futuristic movies, that's coming to take away jobs and do all kinds of nefarious things. That's not what autonomy is. And so we have to do some education, and we heard that today from a couple of the other speakers, that we have to do a little bit more here to talk about autonomy. So let's talk a little bit about the skepticisms of autonomy. Guess what? Not just electrified equipment, but autonomous people. There's people that don't like autonomy either. And now my example here comes from automotive. Our friends in automotive have been talking about automated or autonomous vehicles for quite some time. They have a problem. What is their problem? Nobody wants it. And it's getting worse. So this is a survey from the AAA. People who said they're afraid of self-driving cars is increasing from 55 to 68%, and a mere 9% say they actually trust a self-driving car. Well, this is a problem, isn't it? So now you think to yourself, well, now what are we going to do? Nobody wants autonomy. They're not going to try this, are they? Or are they? Or are they already? So let me give you this example. Autonomy is happening in automotive, and people don't even know it. So this example is from a Chevy Tahoe. This is actually my Chevy Tahoe that I own. And those red circles in there are individual technologies that are available on the Tahoe. So you've got that 360-degree view camera. You've got automated parking assist. You've got lane guidance. That middle picture, that's the cruise control. And then on that far right picture, you've got a camera that's watching your eyes, okay? Individually, all of these features work on the vehicle. You're driving down the road, it keeps you in the lane, it beeps and buzzes at you, and you got cruise control, right? You're like, yeah, this is fine, it's a normal product. Well, what did GM do? They took all 5 of those circles, they combined them together, and they got what? Super Cruise. So this is the GM Super Cruise, and they now have 140 million miles on it. So what is Super Cruise? So Super Cruise, and I'll give you the example, again, I have this vehicle. So I live in Fargo, North Dakota, way far away, but I drove down to Minneapolis because I had something going on. So I drove from Fargo to Minneapolis. It's a 3.5-hour drive on I-94. I hit my Super Cruise outside of Fargo. I did not touch the steering wheel of that vehicle for 100 miles. Why? Because what does it do? It comes up to the vehicle in front of it. It looks before it passes. It puts the blinker on. It puts you in the passing lane, passes the vehicle, checks to make sure it's clear, puts the blinker on, and goes back in, and I don't have my hands on the wheel. 100 miles. Folks, autonomous vehicles are here. They're driving already. 140 million miles and counting. Again, but it's just the perception, right? When they did a survey, people did a survey, one of those things. But meanwhile, if you asked a bunch of people about who have a Chevy, a Chevy or other brands, like I'm not just talking about Chevy, there's other brands that are doing this, they'd say, well, I love those features in there. I want those features in there. Now, again, I'm still at the wheel. I have to be, alert and attent to the driving situation. But again, it just tells you that these things are happening and we didn't even know it. And again, this is all part of this perception thing that we have to get past. So anyway, let's boil this down and start talking about autonomy when it comes to construction. We heard a little bit of this today from Peter in the opening, and that's we really need to focus on those key tasks and the mundane tasks and the elimination of those operations. And if we can help a new or novice operator be productive right away, that's really, really important. And so that's what we're focused on. So what we did at Bobcat, we took the opportunity to look at these different tasks. I just have a few of them up here. We have a whole chart of all of these different construction tasks, and we look at the complexity of those tasks. And so if you take a look in here on the far left, this is just like a simple remote control. We launched that on an iPhone a number of years ago. But then we get into material movement, mowing. We heard about that this morning. When you start getting into digging, finished grade work, breaking and hauling the concrete, these are tough tasks. We are a long ways before we're going to automate those. Now, AI is going to help. Don't get me wrong, but that's a ways away. Now, we are working on those things on the far left, though, and we're starting to commercialize those things. And we heard, Kelly from Bechtel talk about moving these solar panels. That's obviously a very common operation used with compact equipment. Those types of operations, mowing, an autonomous mower is something that we're coming out here at the end of the year. So anyway, there is a path to this, but again, it starts as some of the speakers talked about this morning, got to start simple. Start at the end of the monotonous kinds of tasks and work your way up along the continuum. So from our standpoint, if you kind of start building this out related to the Chevy example, if I start you on that top left circle, features on demand, this is remote activated features. These are features that can be activated on a machine. We've had this commercial for about 3 years now on select products. You can activate something over the air, and so you can get a new feature if you need that. Now, one of the new cool things that we're introducing here at the end of this year is object alerts and really object detection and stopping of the vehicle using radar. So we're going to be putting active radar on the back of some of our select loader products, and that will actually, as you back up, it will sense the object and then derate or stop the vehicle. So this is really, really important. Again, just like the car example with the parking assist that it has. And then there's some vision technologies. We have a whole strategy around using glass as a display. We had an OLED screen in one of our vehicles at the CES show. It was awesome. We get a lot of play on this. We think this is just going to be a hit. It's a little further down the road. But again, it's all part of creating this intelligent operator scenario. And then, of course, if you're going to go autonomously someday, we should have grade monitoring. But while the person's in the cab of the machine, that's a valuable tool. And then we can start getting into object avoidance. Object avoidance says, I can designate this object over here. Maybe this is a fence or a gas line. Don't hit this, don't enter this. Give me a virtual wall or virtual curb along the way. And so we have the technology for that as well. We're employing that on our mower. But if you take all 4 of those circles, those white circles, then you can get to that bottom left circle, and that is an automated operation. You can have a loader go from point A to point B with a discrete operation. Maybe it's moving a pallet, maybe it's some other type of operation, and be able to do that autonomously or automated, however you want to define it. But autonomy in our world, and I think for the industry, is going to be a step by step by step. Like there's going to be features and technology, and again, before you know it, you can combine all those together like Chevy did, and all of a sudden you have this totally new solution that you didn't know you didn't know you needed until you have it. Again, not for everyone, that's okay, but you can use some of these features, and it's really, really important, I think, as a lot of the speakers have said, what are these features to make sure that the operator is still in the cab of the machine is going to, again, be a part of our what we want to do here in the future. Okay, so let's bring it home here. Technology litmus tests, and again, we're a firm believer in this, is that we have 4 simple tests. We start talking about new technology and what we want to do. And the first of this is it simple and functional for the user? You know, you got an owner, a CFO, a superintendent, a project lead, operator. Like you're 5 layers away from the person who bought the machine, who's operating the machine. Guess what? Every single person in that value chain has to see value in the technology, especially the operator. If it doesn't work for that operator, if not simple to use, they'll say, well, this is garbage, get that off of here, and you have no chance. So we have to always think about who is operating the machine and make sure that it's simple for he or she to do that. And then again, as I mentioned, can we enable these things with the operator in the cab? That's really important. The other thing we think about is can we put it on old equipment? And certainly there are a number of these features that we're talking about, like max control, the radar, a few other things. We can retrofit older equipment, and we can take up the level of technology, maybe even semi-autonomous operation. There's so many installed, we have so many products in the field installed base, why not use that to our advantage and being able to help customers out? And of course, you know, the final one, and we heard this, is it just really cool tech because some engineer dreamt it up, or does it solve a real customer job site problem? You know, we always have to be mindful of, did it increase productivity? Did it help someone dig a hole faster? Did it make them more productive? Did it make it safer on the job site? Did it avoid damage on the job site? The basic questions have to be answered, and they have to show value. Otherwise, you're just never going to get there. So with that, I say thank you very much, and I'll close it out. Glad to take any questions, as long as they're not hard.
Oh, we've already got a question here for that.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like Tesla built the superchargers. Do you guys have a plan to charge if you have 10 pieces of electrified equipment out on a job site in a remote area? How are you going to handle that?
Yeah, good question. I guess I'll be careful how I answer. There are people working on that, that maybe we don't have to work on it. Now, we have a whole power generation, part of our Doosan portable power. And so we're talking about mobile portable power, the use of very efficient generation, things like that. But, you know, a lot of cases, the early customers for this, they've already thought about how they're going to charge it. Like the early adopters, they're already talking to us like, okay, this is where our charger is going to be. This is where we're going to be able to do it. They know they have to plan. I think down the road, though, to your point, though, we will have to think about what some of those solutions are. But lots of people are. Lots of people are thinking about it now.
Yeah, another question here.
I think it was like this past winter, Tesla had a lot of issues with the batteries, and a lot of cars basically were stuck because of the weather. Mm-hmm. And I face this also with our robots all the time. But like, how are you guys going to tackle the fact that your batteries might go down by 50% and more?
Mm-hmm. Good question. So first of all, our equipment's a little different. You saw that battery in there, and again, we have multiple manufacturers for batteries. It's in a steel box. So because of that, it naturally wants to stay warm. You know, with a Tesla and the other vehicles, the battery is distributed on the bottom of the vehicle while the vehicle is driving. So it's actually being cooled all the time, where this vehicle isn't. Now, if it's plugged into the charger, the battery stays warm overnight, and it'll continue to stay warm, and we don't see any degrading of performance. We have active fluid now going through that battery also, so we actually have the opportunity now to cool and heat the battery. I would tell you, me personally, on electric vehicles, I'm more concerned about cooling batteries in high temperatures, like Saudi Arabia and some of these places, Mojave Desert, but cooling I think is going to be okay, because these vehicles batteries warm up really quick, and because of the structure, they don't cool off as fast.
Two-part question here. What kind of charger does it take? Is it a dryer one like you
Type 2.
Type 2.
Type 2.
Okay, and then my next question is how long does it take to get to a full charge?
So today it's a 10-hour charge. It's a long time. There's better chargers that are coming that we can retrofit in the field, but DC fast charging technology is coming. The cool part about this tech, since we started on this journey, is I probably get an email a week from a new battery manufacturer. Now, again, they all have to be proved out, but charging technology and fast charging is really going to change not just our industry, but automotive.
And one thing I do like about this is, Bobcats or whatever skid steer we have, the amount of engines we have blown because, Joe Blow's jumping on it real quick, or this guy's jumping on it without checking oil levels. I can't see this be a good product down the road.
Yeah, reduced maintenance is something that, customers are citing as an opportunity for them. No dripping oil on this one either, so.
Okay. Thanks so much, Joel. Let's give him a big hand, please.
Thank you.